Ethan's muscles tensed. He took a deep breath and moved forward, testing his strength and agility. Even against these massive predators, he felt his human endurance giving him an edge. Every instinct, every calculation, every reflex honed over years of survival training came alive. The predators sensed him. Their massive heads turned in unison, scanning the cave with predatory precision. One roared, and the vibration shook the tiny alien women, sending them spinning in panic. But Ethan remained calm. His human mind assessed their weaknesses. Size made them powerful, yes, but slow. Their multiple limbs were precise, but not adaptive. They relied on instinct and raw strength, not cunning or strategy. The first hunter lunged. Ethan dodged, moving with unexpected speed. Rocks flew, dust clouded the air, and the tiny aliens gasped in astonishment. Humans, they realized, were not only strong, they were clever, adaptable, unpredictable. Another predator joined the attack, and Ethan's training kicked in. He used the environment to his advantage, forcing the massive creatures to collide with the cave walls, slowing their movements. He moved faster than they could anticipate, using calculated strikes and distractions to buy time. Lyra watched from above, her glow steady. She whispered to the others, "Observe. Learn what humans do. This is not just survival, it is adaptation beyond expectation." Ethan's endurance allowed him to take the fight to the predators without panic. Every move was precise, every decision intentional. The tiny aliens had underestimated him at first, but now they realized the truth. Humans were legends in motion, beings capable of turning even overwhelming danger into opportunity. The cave shook violently. Dust and rocks fell, yet Ethan remained focused. The predators were massive, but they were not invincible. They had never faced a human before, creatures capable of blending strength, intelligence, and mercy in one body. Suddenly, one hunter paused. It sensed something unusual, a force within Ethan that even it could not predict. He stood tall, unbroken, and for the first time, the predators hesitated. They were not used to prey who could fight back with mind as well as muscle. Lyra's voice came again, calm and resolute. "You are human. You survive. You endure. And now, you teach them why humans are feared." The tiny aliens watched, awe and fear mixed in their glowing bodies. Ethan had become more than a survivor. He had become a force the galaxy could not ignore. And outside the cave, the approaching hunters realized that this one human, was not prey. He was a storm waiting to strike. The cave shook violently as the massive predators pressed forward. Ethan's heart raced, but his mind was calm, sharp, and ready. The tiny alien women scrambled behind him, their glowing bodies flickering between fear and awe. Lyra hovered close, her steady green glow a signal of trust. The first predator lunged with terrifying speed, claws scraping against the rocky walls. Ethan sidestepped, feeling the rush of air as its massive limbs barely missed him. Every instinct screamed at him to strike, and strike he did. A well-aimed kick sent the predator crashing into the cave wall. Rocks and dust exploded, blinding the other hunters momentarily. "They are faster than expected," one tiny alien shouted, her small body trembling. Ethan ignored them. His focus was entirely on the threat. Humans survived by adapting, by thinking one step ahead, and by refusing to panic even when outmatched. He observed the predators' patterns, noticing how they coordinated their attack. They were powerful, yes, but rigid. Each move predictable if you stayed calm. Another predator lunged from the shadows. Ethan spun, using a fallen rock as leverage, and flipped onto its back. His hands gripped its armor-like skin, twisting and redirecting its momentum. The creature roared in pain, stumbling into the cave wall. The tiny aliens gasped. They had believed humans were just prey. They had assumed strength alone could be controlled, measured. They were wrong. Humans combined strength, speed, intelligence, and cunning in ways no alien had fully understood. Lyra hovered above him, whispering softly to the others, "Observe. Humans are not just strong. They adapt. They survive. And they fight with mind as well as body." The predators adjusted, realizing Ethan was not like other prey. Their attacks became more aggressive, more chaotic. But Ethan stayed calm. He used every piece of the cave to his advantage, shifting debris, leading them into tight spaces, and forcing them to collide with one another. One predator tried to corner him near a jagged cliff edge. Ethan leapt, grabbing a stalactite, and swung himself onto higher ground. He kicked the nearest predator with precise force, sending it tumbling into the rocks below. The tiny aliens whispered among themselves, their glowing bodies flickering with awe. "He is not just a human. He is a weapon," one said. Quietly, another predator charged, larger and stronger than the rest. Ethan met it head-on. The ground shook beneath their combined force. He ducked, rolled, and struck the creature's vulnerable points, exploiting the gaps in its armor. With each movement, he was calculating, adapting, surviving. Then came the moment the tiny aliens would never forget. Ethan, surrounded by impossible odds, fought not out of anger, but out of survival and protection. He shielded the smaller aliens from harm, even as he unleashed raw human power against the predators. The largest predator hesitated. It sensed something unusual, a human not just surviving, but dominating, controlling the chaos, and protecting what should have been easy prey. Ethan's eyes met Lyra's. She hovered close, her glow steady, almost proud. He understood the trust she had placed in him, and he acted accordingly. Using every ounce of strength and skill, he redirected the predators, forcing them into a narrow canyon inside the cave. The rocks shifted, collapsing partially, trapping one massive predator beneath debris. The others backed away, recognizing too late that this human was not ordinary. Not prey, not even a threat in the traditional sense. Ethan was something the galaxy had underestimated, a human who could survive, adapt, and dominate with intelligence, skill, and raw power. The tiny aliens stared in awe and fear. Their whispers carried respect now. Humans, they realized, were beings of unpredictable might. Lyra floated to Ethan's side. "You are extraordinary," she whispered. Her voice was calm but reverent. "Not just for strength, but for choice, cunning, and restraint. You show the galaxy why humans are feared and why they must be respected." Ethan's chest rose and fell. The predators had retreated, confused and wary. The cave was quiet, save for the distant echoes of collapsing rocks. The tiny aliens cautiously emerged from hiding, their glowing forms bright with admiration. Ethan understood the lesson. Raw strength alone was deadly, but combined with intelligence, adaptability, and restraint, humans became legends. And in that moment, the tiny aliens and the predators watching from afar realized something crucial. The rage of a human was not mindless fury. It was controlled, intelligent, and unstoppable when survival demanded it. High above, unseen, the queen observed. Her glowing eyes reflected not anger, but respect and curiosity. Humans were no longer just stories. They were a force the galaxy would never ignore. The cave was quiet now, but the tension still lingered like a shadow. Ethan stood among the tiny alien women, their glowing forms flickering softly. Lyra hovered close, her calm green light a sign of trust. Even the predators that had attacked earlier were gone, retreating to the edges of the planet, wary of humans' unpredictable power. Yet the cave was far from safe. Ethan could feel the presence of distant watchers, galactic forces tracking his energy. He realized that the tiny aliens, though intelligent, were only a small part of a much larger galaxy. And humans were known, feared, and misunderstood. Lyra floated beside him. "You have fought well," she whispered. "But why? Why are humans so feared across the galaxy? Ethan looked at her. You want the truth? He asked. You should know. Earth is not what your records show. Humans. We survive where nothing else can. We endure wars, disasters, hunger, disease. And we keep moving forward. We adapt, we fight. We survive. The tiny aliens blinked, glowing softly as they processed his words. Some whispered to one another, their clicks and hums quick and nervous. Lyra's glow deepened, almost reverent. Ethan continued, his voice steady. Other species. They fear humans because we are not just strong. We plan, we cooperate. We endure pain and loss without giving up. We learn, we adapt, and we innovate. We are hard to destroy. And that terrifies anyone who thinks they can control the galaxy. The council, still unseen but watching from afar, hummed in agreement. The alien scans they had performed on him now made sense. Humans were not only biologically resilient, but psychologically unstoppable. Even the tiny hunters, who had tried to devour him, had underestimated his intelligence and adaptability. Lyra hovered close, almost silently. You speak as if your people are legends. We are, Ethan replied calmly. To some species, Earth is a threat. To others, a curiosity. To most, humans are dangerous because we survive the impossible. A distant vibration shook the cave. Ethan's senses sharpened. The Galactic hunters, drawn by his energy, were still on approach, but now they hesitated. They had encountered humans before. They had heard stories. And they understood that humans were not ordinary prey. Lyra floated in awe. Your strength, your endurance, your choice to show mercy. It is not just physical power. Humans are more. Ethan nodded. Exactly. We can be kind, intelligent, and restrained, even when facing overwhelming odds. And that is what makes us dangerous. The galaxy underestimates humans at its own peril. The tiny alien women shifted nervously. They had once feared him. Now they feared his kind in a different way, respect mixed with awe. He had fought predators larger than anything they had ever seen. He had survived rituals meant to kill him. And he had protected those who had tried to harm him. Lyra glanced at the others. We have misjudged humans. Completely, she whispered. Ethan looked around. Do not misunderstand, he said. We are not perfect. But when survival demands, humans rise. We endure what others cannot. And we learn, adapt, and fight back smarter than anyone expects. A small alien, trembling, whispered, Your people are unstoppable. Ethan smiled faintly. We can be. That is why your galaxy needs to understand humans before it is too late. High above, the Queen observed in silence. Her glowing eyes reflected both caution and respect. Humans were no longer merely records or legends. They were a force the galaxy could not ignore. And Ethan was a living example of that truth. The predators outside hesitated. The tiny aliens looked at him with new understanding. Even the council, observing silently, recorded the outcome of this encounter. The galaxy was learning a lesson. Humans were resilient, adaptable, and dangerous, not because of brute strength alone, but because they survived, endured, and chose their actions with intelligence and foresight. Ethan took a deep breath. The cave, once a trap, now felt like a stage. He had shown them the truth. Earth was not weak. Humans were feared, and with good reason. And as the glow of the tiny aliens shifted around him, Ethan realized that his journey had only begun. The galaxy would watch humans carefully now. Some would fear them, some would respect them, and some would challenge them. But humans, Ethan knew, were survivors above all else. The cave, once filled with tension and fear, now carried a different energy. The tiny alien women hovered around Ethan, their glowing bodies pulsing with a mix of awe, respect, and cautious relief. Lyra stayed close, her green glow steady, her large eyes reflecting something that resembled admiration. Ethan surveyed the cave. The predators had retreated, but the threat in the galaxy was far from over. He could feel it in his bones. Other hunters, other species, other dangers were already moving toward this planet, drawn by the energy that humans unknowingly emitted. Lyra floated closer. "You have proven yourself," she said softly. "But now, the galaxy does not only watch you, it will test you. Must help us protect our people." Ethan nodded. Humans had always thrived by protecting those who could not protect themselves. And now, these tiny aliens, once his captors, almost his enemies, needed his help. He moved among them, carefully scanning their defenses. Their small size and intelligence had protected them for generations, but they were not ready for the predators or other galactic threats. Ethan understood this immediately. The galaxy would not wait for them to grow stronger. They needed action now. The tiny alien women followed his instructions, arranging their glowing crystals, reinforcing their cave's weak points, and creating early warning systems. Ethan taught them how to use their energy in new ways, combining their natural skills with strategic tactics. Even the predators who had tried to hunt him before would struggle against a united defense. "Your people, they are learning fast," Lyra said, her tone filled with wonder. "We have underestimated humans. You can protect even us." Ethan smiled faintly. "Strength alone does not protect anyone," he replied. "Strategy, intelligence, and adaptation do." The predators outside tested the perimeter again. Ethan and the tiny aliens watched from higher ground. The humans' presence had changed everything. The predators had expected easy prey, but now, under Ethan's guidance, the aliens' defenses were clever, coordinated, and unpredictable. The predators attacked in waves, using speed and brute force. But Ethan anticipated each move, guiding the tiny aliens to counterattack with precision. They created traps, forced predators into tight spaces, and used their glowing energy in ways that amplified Ethan's tactics. Lyra hovered beside him, whispering, "You are more than a survivor. You are a protector. The galaxy will take notice." Ethan realized she was right. The tiny aliens, once his hunters, now looked to him as their shield. They trusted him completely, following his strategies without question. The HFY moment was clear. Humans were not just survivors, they could inspire and lead, turning fear into strength, chaos into order. A massive predator lunged at the cave entrance. Ethan moved swiftly, using its momentum against it. The creature crashed into a series of reinforced rocks, trapping it. The tiny aliens gasped, their glow shifting from fear to bright green hope. "Your guidance, your actions," Lyra whispered. "Humans are remarkable. You have changed our fate." Ethan looked at the cave, at the glowing alien women, and felt a sense of purpose. He had survived rituals, predators, and trials. Now he was transforming a colony's survival. His presence had turned prey into protectors. High above, the queen watched silently. Her glowing eyes reflected curiosity and cautious approval. Humans were no longer simply dangerous legends. They were catalysts. Ethan knew the galaxy was watching. Every action he took, every strategy he implemented, would ripple across the stars. The tiny aliens now had a new leader, not because he was their master, but because he had shown strength, intelligence, and mercy. And as the predators withdrew, wounded and confused, Ethan understood the truth. Survival was not only about enduring threats. It was about protecting others, teaching, and inspiring courage even in those who once feared you. The tiny aliens now looked at him differently. They had tried to devour him once. Now they followed him into battle. Humans, Ethan knew, were more than survivors. They were guardians, warriors, and legends in motion. and the galaxy would soon learn the full measure of that truth. The cave was quiet, but the energy in the air had shifted. Ethan stood among the tiny alien women, their glowing bodies steady now, their fear replaced with cautious respect. The predators had retreated, but the galaxy beyond the planet had already begun to take notice. Lyra hovered close, her soft green glow a beacon of trust. "You have done more than survive," she whispered. "You have protected our people, changed our fate. The galaxy is watching." Ethan's eyes narrowed. He could feel it, the distant presence of alien ships and scouts tracking his energy. Every movement, every pulse, every heartbeat he emitted was now visible across multiple star systems. Humans, he realized, were no longer unknown. They were being recorded, studied, and in some cases, feared. The tiny aliens whispered among themselves, their clicks and hums filled with awe. "The humans. They are more than we imagined," one said. "Stronger, faster, smarter. Dangerous." "Yes," Lyra agreed, floating beside Ethan, "and they choose mercy. That is what makes them legends." And nodded. Humans were survivors, yes, but more than that. They were capable of inspiring others, turning fear into strength, chaos into order. That combination was unpredictable and frightening to most species. The predators outside began to regroup, their massive bodies moving cautiously. They had underestimated the human. They had assumed raw strength was enough. They were wrong. Humans were clever. Humans adapted. Humans survived, and they protected others while doing it. A distant signal pulsed through space. Ethan recognized it instantly. The Galactic Council had noticed the energy spikes, the unusual activity, and the reports from scouts. The humans' actions were no longer isolated events. They were now part of a larger story, a legend spreading faster than any warrior or hunter could contain. Lyra's glow shifted to bright blue. "Other species will arrive soon," she warned. "Some will fear humans. Some will respect them. But all will want to understand, or challenge them." Ethan's gaze hardened. He had survived crashes, predators, rituals, and trials. He had protected a colony that once tried to kill him. Now the galaxy itself was watching. He understood one thing clearly. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were actors in a larger stage, capable of shaping events on a scale few could comprehend. The tiny aliens began preparing for the newcomers. Ethan guided them, teaching strategies, positioning defenses, and sharing insights about galactic predators. The colony, once fragile and vulnerable, now moved with purpose, coordinated by a human's insight. Lyra floated beside him, whispering, "They will remember this human. Your actions, your choices. Humans are unstoppable when they combine strength with intelligence and restraint." Ethan smiled faintly. Humans had survived impossible worlds, wars, and disasters. They had endured enemies larger, faster, and more numerous than any other species. And now, the galaxy would finally understand why humans were feared and respected not for brute strength alone, but for the combination of adaptability, intelligence, courage, and morality. A massive shadow passed across the cave entrance. Ethan's instincts kicked in immediately. Another group of predators, faster and smarter than the last, had arrived. Yet this time, the tiny aliens did not panic. They stood ready, confident in the strategies he had taught them. Ethan stepped forward. His presence alone radiated power, control, and resolve. The predators hesitated, sensing something different. This was no ordinary human. This was a force the galaxy had underestimated, and now it was awake.